Welcome back to the Bullet Grill House High School Sports Pregame Show. Kraig, Erwin, Brian Besh, Chris Moran, and Brian. I forgot to mention it when we opened the show up, but dude, we had some killer food this last week.
We did
at the Cold Spring Trojans football game.
Well, I didn't go to that, but I thought you were talking about last week at the Bullet Grill House.
Well, I still had Bullet Grill House as they had their brisket chili for the press box dinner.
See,
we
I've
catered
had
the
that.
press box dinner, so
I've had that, and it is fantastic.
It was absolutely delicious. My 8-year-old sucked her bowl down and then had 2 cookies afterwards, so she was amped up by the time we got home.
There you go.
Fastest game last week that I've ever done. We were done in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
That's Coach Armstrong's news special that he used to put on. He said that if we're doing things like we're supposed to be doing, he used to run that option offense that would keep the ball on the ground. We're starting the game at 7:30. We'll be home by the 10 o'clock news.
And I was. I mean, literally, I was in bed last Friday night by 10:15.
Mm-hmm.
I was in bed, like, all comfortable and stuff.
that's better than the game a couple weeks ago when I was closing Bullet and I'm on my way home and you guys were still on the air playing the game. I'm like, no, there's something wrong here. Hey, and speaking of, we were at Cold Spring doing the press box, but it looks like we're lining up to be at Livingston for their community day at the community tailgate November 4th.
There you go.
So Bullet Grill House may make an appearance out in Livingston in a few weeks.
They're going to love you.
They've been hearing about it for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And if they haven't made the trip, matter of fact, we went to Saturday. They had a little high school fishing tournament there on Livingston. I say little, there was 90 boats, but there, what is that? Chasers, the new place that's opened up over there. That's where the weigh-in was, and so we went over there Saturday. We tried Chasers out, pretty decent food. And I'm real big about the local stuff, but my point and what I was trying to make is I was visiting with one of my best friends, his parents and his brother and everybody, and I was like, man, I said, we go over to the Bullet every Wednesday night. I do a radio show, and Roy and Della was like, dude, we love the Bullet. And they live all the way over at Beacon Bay, but they make the trip over here about at least once every other week. And I said, Della, have you had the fried bologna sandwich? And she's like, I'm not eating bologna.
Yeah, you will.
And I said, if you eat it once, you'll eat it 1,000,000 times after you've had it. So the bologna sandwich is off the chain. You want me to tell you something else that's off the chain? New Caney Eagles football. They're 6-0, 4-0 in district, out of district, what are they, 13-6A?
Any school that's had Ken Luck,
Yes.
it's pretty obvious that they're going to
They're going to be legendary
extreme
status.
success. And, of course, Kraig Erwin, I guess,
Yep.
can count him as an alumni. So.
Yeah. So, but New Caney, I mean, 6-0, and I don't see them losing anything until we get into the playoffs.
Well, the district over there is not easy.
No.
So it's a deal to where there's a couple of teams that can knock them off, but it's like you say, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but Ken and I it wasn't even Ken, it was Rob and I that were doing a game many years ago whenever they opened up that stadium, and we were just kind of bragging on New Caney and how great they looked, and because they were giving Livingston all they wanted and a whole lot more, and they said, just wait till these junior high kids come up. Well, guess where those junior high kids are now?
Yep.
They're 6-0.
Yeah, they're juniors and seniors right now, and a good group of parents behind that program as well, and been a lot of fun. But this segment, we're going to kind of run down.
And off the chain as well.
Yes. We're going to run down kind of the 59 corridor, where these districts are and who's doing what. But New Caney's leading this district 4-0. The Woodland Highlanders 4-1. College Park is 3-1. Willis is 3-2, and their record does not denote really how good they are.
I was listening to something earlier today, and Derek, or he actually goes by DJ Lagway, is the guy that I always try to think of his name, and I never can whenever I'm doing one of these. but he is the quarterback that absolutely everyone in the nation is after, and we're talking Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, Texas, every big school in the nation, and anywhere that this kid wants to go to school, he's going to be able to, because absolutely everyone wants him as their quarterback. And it's one of those deals where if you're recruiting quarterback these days, you can only recruit one because of the transfer portal and how that works out now. So not only is he like a prized recruit, but he is above everyone else and might end up being one of the top 5, top 10 recruits in the nation. And
I got a story for off the air. I can't say on the air, but I can say off the air, and we'll talk about it, about that kid.
The story that I heard earlier today, a couple hours ago, I was listening. Last week he threw 3 incompletions and 5 touchdown passes. So take that for what you want.
Pretty impressive.
You know, in this division, though, it's quite competitive for what it used to be.
Yes.
You know, my kids went to high school in the Woodlands. They graduated in the Woodlands. So the Woodlands dominated the divisions they were in for so many years. And there's some good competition now with these schools getting bigger.
I look at it as really, I honestly kind of look at that 6A level as almost junior college.
Yeah, there's some 6As that I'm not going to say they can stay on the field with some junior college, but they look like them. There's also another quarterback, kid, I think it's Trey Metzauer is his last name, plays over the Woodlands. He is a fantastic quarterback over there. Another kid that's looking at just about anywhere he wants to go to school, he's going to be able to. And it's a loaded district with a lot of fantastic athletes.
Coming down the rest of this district, Conroe, they're 2-3, Oak Ridge 2-2, Cleveland Indians 1-3, and got a game that I feel like they may be able to win this week, and I should have put them in the pick'ems, but I didn't. Grand Oaks is 1-4, Caney Creek 0-4. Doesn't look like they're going to get a dub at all this season as we run down that. Running down some more of these districts.
As if we get Coach Ratliff in here again, he's going to pick Caney Creek.
No, he is. And whenever he comes back in here, and I'm going to throw Caney Creek in there just for him to pick them. That way we can razz on him a little bit.
Well, we got to beat him at something because he's not losing anything this year so far.
No, he's not. Moving over to District 8, 5A Division 1. Kingwood Park in the driver's seat. It's been a long time since we talked about them. Ken showed me an article from a past coach from Kingwood Park. He was at Cleveland, then went to Kingwood Park. Been around that area. But Kingwood Park in the driver's seat, 5-0. Barbers Hill, 4-1. Port Arthur Memorial, 4-0. They're 4-0 off of a bye week, but I'm saying all of this, they're on a crash course, Kingwood Park and Port Arthur Memorial, to meet each other. Going to be interesting to see how that district plays out whenever they come together. Oh, yeah, I see you, Ken.
Barbers Hill, Port Arthur Memorial, both schools that you think of when you think of high school football, especially out of that district. But Kingwood Park is a new one and obviously able to compete this year, and they're going to have to be able to compete at a high level to beat a team like Port Arthur Memorial.
And much like we talked about in our podcast earlier this week that we put out over on the LSG, Lone Star Gridiron Network, if you want to know what the LSG is, go click on there and listen to that deal. It's a Week 10 matchup.
Mm-hmm.
First weekend in November. It's a Thursday night game, so the game is at Kingwood Park. Game I'm probably just going to slip out of the house and go watch.
Wouldn't be a bad one to see, and
especially with it being a Thursday night game.
And we've seen, and we actually talked about it. I think how many of these districts seem to match up in Week 10 to where it's going to come down to the number 1 and number 2 teams in the district, or possibly a couple of teams that may be undefeated in district fighting for that district crown on the final week of the season.
No, it's going to be fun. It really is. That first week in November is going to be a lot of fun. It's almost to where you could, if those coaches were smart, they would space them games out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to pack the house, because avid football fans such as us, we would go to every one of those games 5 nights.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty incredible that Week 10. I don't think we're going to be, because usually you've got some of these districts that are decided and you know where people are going. They're not really playing for anything. It's almost like they have a bye that week, or they've got somebody that probably isn't in contention for district. It's not going to be that way this season. It's going to be down to the very last game, and it's going to roll right into playoffs. It's almost going to be like that week 10 is, here's your warm-up, now let's go play the playoff season.
Exactly. Other teams in District 8 5A Division 2 is LaPorte 3-2, Crosby 2-3, Baytown Lee 1-3, Porter 1-3, Baytown Sterling 0-4, Goose Creek Memorial 0-4. But let's not forget about the close game Goose Creek Memorial had against Crosby just a couple weeks ago, as we talk about that district. Moving down to 4A Division 1, your Livingston Lions district, and I clicked on the wrong screen, so bear with me.
I can go with it a little bit. I know that this week the big deal for the Livingston Lions is like we said earlier, LCM's backed into a corner. They've lost their first game, probably weren't expecting to lose. A lot of people weren't expecting them to lose.
No, not at all.
But Vider played, from what I hear, they played almost the perfect game and may have maxed out what they're capable of this year. That offense, we've discussed it a couple of different times, to where if you're running that double wing or you're running the slot T, you're going to have a game where you sneak up on somebody. You're going to have a game maybe where you lose to somebody that you shouldn't lose to. Vider got him this week, and from what I hear, it was a game to where they were just churning out long drives, and they were able to smack these guys in the mouth on every single play. And I said, well, Coach, seems to me that if you've got an LCM team that just came off of that, you need to come out and have a really fast start and remind them what it's like. And you better turn out some big drives yourself, because Livingston doesn't always start fast, but they're going to need to in this game and just kind of set the tone.
No, and I agree with you. You pop them in the lips real quick early on, kind of stun them a little bit, the little shock factor, and then make them play from behind.
There's no guessing as to what Livingston's going to do. They've run for 1,500 yards this year. They've passed for 500. So you can guess for every 3 yards that they're getting on the ground, they're getting 1 through the air. They don't want to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball to loosen you up. What they want to do is what they have been doing these last 3 or 4 games. They want to blow you off the line of scrimmage, and they want to get the 4 and 5 yard gains, and they want to – Coach doesn't even want you to – they really don't even want the 80-yard gains. They'll take them, but what he wants is the 12 to 15 play drives to where that other team is sitting on the sidelines and having to watch your offense on the field the entire game.
Eat up the clock management, and stay in front of the chains. That's the object of it. But we're talking about District 10 4A Division 1, Livingston Lions and Lumberton Raiders and Vider Pirates in the driver's seat three-way as they went into their first week of district 1-0. Huffman Falcons, Little Cypress, Mauriceville, and Splendora 0-1 in this district, and don't look for them to make any changes as far as the Splendora Wildcats make any changes. I don't see them winning a football game this year.
We talked about it, and the Splendora Huffman game. This is basically an elimination game.
No, it is.
There's no real road back. If you lose this game and you're one of those teams in this game, there's no real road back if you lose this game. Your playoff chances are very, very thin, and it's crazy to say that in week 2, but that's exactly what it is. You're going to be 0-2, and you've got to face some of the harder schools in the district still. So that's what both of these are facing. That is a fighting for your playoff life type game over there. Lumberton has, I believe it's Vider this week.
Yep.
And Vider obviously coming off a high of beating LCM.
It's game of the week down there in Beaumont.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Well, there's a game that we're going to talk about here in a little bit that I feel like should be the game of the week, but that's as far as a bigger school, that's going to be a solid game.
To me, it's super interesting because you've got Lumberton that likes to spread it out. Now they do. They like to spread it out. They like to throw it all over the field, which sounds crazy for Lumberton because the way they used to grind out yardage for years and years and years. They'll spread you out now. They'll throw it downfield. Vider's just the opposite. They're going to do what Lumberton used to do. They're going to take their 3 and 4 yard gains, and they're going to run that slot T all night long, and it's going to be a battle of wills.
District 9 4A Division 2, going to a little smaller school. Jasper's in the driver's seat, 3-0. Hampshire Finette is 2-1. Silsby Tigers 2-0. Liberty Panthers 1-2, West Orange Stark 1-2, Bridge City 0-2, Hardin Jefferson 0-2, and I just clicked on the Jasper Bulldogs site and to go down and look another Week 10 district matchup.
Yeah, and
I think this next week in our podcast, that's something we're going to really key on.
There's 3 teams, if I remember right. There's 3 teams in this district where it's still very open between the 3.
Yep.
It's Silsbee, it's
Silsbee, Jasper, and
Hampshire-Fannett, and it sounds weird to throw Hampshire-Fannett into those 2 because the other 2 you've been talking about them for decades. Hampshire-Fannett, it used to be one of those games where you'd schedule homecoming. Yeah, and it's not that way anymore. Hampshire is a real football team now.
They are for real. I've got to watch them play, and I picked them this last week in that game. Rightfully so. Obviously they did win, but home field advantage there. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago, if you would have asked me to pick Hampshire-Fannett, I was picking them on the road because they were going on the road and they was dominating everybody they played on the road. Well, now it's transition to where they're dominating everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody they play, Hampshire-Fannett's been in the driver's seat. I've got to watch them play, and it's a lot of fun. Staying down there in the Golden Triangle, we're going to jump into District 10, 3A Division 1. Driver's seat there is Orangefield and East Chambers. Orangefield 3-0, East Chambers 2-0. Anahuac Panthers, big game this week, 2-1. We'll talk about that game in the pick'ems as we progress on in the show in the segment 3. Buna 1-2, Tarkington's 1-1, Hardin 0-2. Hard to believe that we got Kirbyville sitting at 0-3 right now in district, and it's hard for me to say that because traditionally Kirbyville's been such a great football team.
And still seems like someone who could come up and bite somebody if they have a letdown type game. This one seems to have a division where you have a top 4 already, and you almost have it decided who's going to make the playoffs. You're fighting for seeding at this point. But Kirbyville, I would say, has the best chance of those schools. Tarkington obviously can come up and get somebody as well, but as far as what you say, I mean, Kirbyville's got that tradition. They've got some kids over there with talent. They can play. They'll sneak up on somebody this year.
Here's the crazy part talking about Kirbyville, though. Their one win was against Trinity, 52-0. Mm-hmm. They lose to Diboll 33-24. We know what caliber of football team Diboll is. They lose to Corrigan 30-35. We know what caliber football team Corrigan is. They lose to Hemp Hill 56-28. Hemp Hill, big game this week for them against Newton. East Chambers 36-16. Buna 42-16. Anahuac 30-0. So it's like you almost wonder. In the Tarkington Kirbyville game is in the pick'ems, and it's hard to for me, and I still haven't made my mind up. I will here by the time we get to the next segment, but you look at that game. Those guys are beat up.
Yeah.
Kirbyville is. I mean, they haven't had a bye week. Their bye week is the final week of the season. And, it's much like Cold Spring. And I've had the same conversation about Tarkington as I've had Cold Spring, and you almost got to have that conversation now about Kirbyville. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a battle-tested game overall. And like I say, I don't want to give too much away.
The other thing I would guard against, you've got some of these schools that have an early district loss. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to win district. You've got, for example, in this district, you've got Anahuac, and maybe they didn't match up against an Orangefield the way that you would want them to match up if you're a Panther fan. But there's nothing saying that you can't have a 3-way tie and everybody have a loss at the end of the season just because maybe they didn't match up stylistically against one team better than they do against another. So I would not count Anahuac out by any means because 2 weeks ago we were talking about Anahuac winning this district.
Yeah, and it still possibly could happen in a sense if it comes to a tiebreaker and point spread.
Yeah.
They're going to lose the head-to-head with Orangefield, but –
but maybe East Chambers sneaks up on them.
Yeah, that's
So-
a big game coming up this week, and we're going to talk about it in the pick'ems.
So maybe you've got a lot of one-team losses at the end of this, and I think there's a lot of people that dismiss somebody as soon as they lose that first district game, and it's just they shouldn't, because there's a lot of football to be played.
Real briefly, we're going to talk about my district. District 9 3A is Cold Spring sitting 2-1, Diboll 2-0, Woodville 2-1, Crockett 1-2, Palestine Westwood 1-1, Shepherd 1-2, Huntington 0-2, and some good games coming up this week. Shepherd has a tough one in front of them against Diboll. Cold Spring going to be on the road going against a team that I've been talking about being competitive, Palestine Westwood, and this is going to tell the tale and really could play a factor in a playoff spot for the Cold Spring Trojans.
Yeah, if you have lost a district game, everything has so much more meaning now. You know, we talked about how you're not out of it, but you're not necessarily in it either. So it's a deal, and just like I said with LCM this week against Livingston, Cold Springs backed into a corner. You better start winning, and it better start happening right now, because if you're too far in a hole, you get to the point to where you don't have enough to catch up, and there's not going to be enough games. So it's going to be, okay, where's our A game? We better find it, and it better come right now.
Well, I said 4-6 3 weeks ago for a reason.
I still think they make it.
We'll see what happens. Tell you something else to see what happens is Wednesday nights, Bullet Grill House, you have bingo night.
Mm-hmm.
Astros are on. When the Astros are on, they're on here at Bullet. Definitely worth coming to. The menu options, we've talked about them. Just endless, pretty much. And, you know, they got some killer pretzels here, too, at Bullet Grill House, but also Sunday ticket.
And I found out 20 minutes ago they've got desserts.
And we got more coming. We got more desserts coming. NFL Sunday Ticket Sundays, a great lineup. You may do the Saturday college football show.
Absolutely.
We've got man, what a great weekend. We're going to talk about that later. I'm excited, man. A great week of Saturday of football. And we got a great week coming up this week. Got the car show this week out in Wolf Creek. So if you're heading out that way, we're not going to be at the car show this week, but we are going to do some box lunches. So if you want to avoid the lines out at the car show, swing in here. We'll have some breakfast taco, a couple tacos and some salsa for $5. We're going to do some sandwiches, chips, fruit cups, like a little box lunch plate for box lunch box, I guess that's what you're going to call it. We'll have those for about $10 and grab something to go. And you avoid the lines out there at the car show. Go see some cars. It's right down the road here at Wolf Creek Park. And go out and see Ken. He'll be there all Saturday and Sunday. So
I was going to say that. You stop by and see the legendary Ken Luck. He'll have a tent set up and doing some broadcast out there all day long there at the car show there at Wolf Creek. I'm not going to be able to be there. Got some prior arrangements that's got me tied up. Not going to be able to make it, but I do love going to that car show. I mean, they pack probably 300-400 cars in there each and every year that they do the Chamber of Commerce car show there at Wolf Creek Park. Going to be a lot of fun. You're listening to the Bullet Grill House High School Sports Pregame Show on 102.3 The Eagle, AM 1440 The Score. We're going to take a break. When we come back, everybody's favorite segment, the Pick'ems, right after this.